Hey everyone, this is Sean from the Saving Your Future podcast and Saving Your Future uh, Facebook, YouTube channel here. And wanted to talk today a little bit about how much money you need to save for retirement and where you should be, depending on where you are in your life, where you are in your life as far as age level and how much you should have saved for retirement. So on this channel and on this podcast, we talk about everything related to saving for a rainy day, to saving for a home, a car, and of course, saving for retirement and planning for your retirement and for your future. So, number of different places that I've seen online. Just did a little research on how much money you need to save for retirement. And this particular article that I'm referencing, I'm going to look at the information here, is on Synchrony Bank. I'll also will link in the description below this article that I'm looking at to reference the information, but all over the internet, you can get the same kind of information. So what we're going to talk about first is at each particular age range, how much people generally have for retirement and how much, then after that, how much you should have. So in most cases, spoiler alert, people don't have enough. So let's talk about in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, what you should have versus what people generally do have. And I'll give you a little tip right now about where I started and how I basically got to where I needed to be. And then we'll get into these numbers. So first job that I had that actually provided me with a 401k, one of the things they said early on is, as soon as I was starting, hey, we match your 401k dollar for dollar up to 6% of your salary. How much do you want to start with? My answer was 6%. I wouldn't do any less than that. Why? Because they're going to match that money. So that means if I put in 6% of my salary, the company is going to put in 6% of my salary. So even without anything growing, I now have 12% of my salary in my 401k. How can you ask for better than that? So if I put in 5%, 4%, 3%, and I've seen people do that, which was a mistake, I think, they put in those smaller amounts and essentially the company is only going to match that. So, you could get a 6% of, 6% of your salary basically donated to you or given to you by that company. That really is like increasing your salary just by contributing to your 401k. So why would you not do that? And then, that 6% when I was starting out was way less than the max, the cap that I could put in for my 401k. So from there, how did I get to basically max it from that point is every time I got a raise and every time I felt like I could do it a little bit, I would raise that amount. So 6% of my salary to 7%, 8%, and so on. Also, as you got a raise, it's 6% of a bigger amount, 7%, 8%, 10% of a larger amount. So if you had 10%, for example, and you're making $30,000, that's $3,000. If you had 10% at 60,000, that's 6,000. As you can see, the more money you make, the smaller percentage you have to have in order to, receive, basically max out your 401k. So let's talk now for a few minutes, a little bit about where people are and where they need to be. So the average American, not the average, but the median, which means the middle amount. So, certain people have less, certain people have more, but right in the middle is these particular numbers. So Americans in their 20s, the median amount they have saved is 16 grand. Okay. In their 30s, 45 grand. In their 40s, 63 grand. 50s, 117. 60s, 172,000. So let's think about that for a second. Okay. So you're in your 20s. That could be anywhere from 20 to 29, right? So 20s, 30s, so on. So it doesn't necessarily mean 20. It could mean 29. So 16 grand is right in the middle of what people have saved. And you're in your 20s. So you say, okay, well, maybe not so bad. I'm getting started. And so I'm doing okay. I got 16 grand. So let's say, even, you started and you have you're making $30,000 out of school and, you're putting in 10%, that's $3,000 a year. So, you do that for a couple of years, 16 grand, maybe that's not so bad. Again, it's a start. If you have 16 grand at 22, 23, much better than at 29. And like I said, use that ability every raise you get to put a little bit more percentage wise, and which will end up being a little bit more dollar wise as well, because you're making more money. In the 30s, in your 30s, average, not average, but the median is $45,000. So you're in your 30s now, between 30 and 39, 45 grand. So you're starting to get there a little bit. You're starting to put some money away. 45 grand, obviously much higher than 16 grand. But that doesn't necessarily mean 45 grand is what people put away. It's what they put away plus what that portfolio is actually making for them. So it's what they've actually contributed plus the gains and growth that they've had. So yeah, maybe you're still okay at that point, right? I'd love to hear where you're at. Are you in this range? Are you higher, lower? Let me know in the comments below. Be interested in seeing where people are. So in your 30s, you have, roughly $45,000. Is that enough? Is that not enough? Yeah, there's calculators out there to help you. So let me know if you're interested in that. Say, hey, Sean, give me the calculator. Tell me where I can find the calculator. I'd be happy to post that in the comments below and, prepare something a little more for you guys. Okay. In their 40s, the average person has $63,000 saved for retirement. Okay. So 63 grand. Let's say in your 40s, you're making $60,000 a year, right? So you have $63,000 saved for retirement. So that means you basically have 1 year's salary saved at age 40 to 49. How long do you think that's going to last you in retirement? I think at this point, don't necessarily sound the panic alarm yet, but start thinking about, well, hey, if I don't do something right away, or if I don't do something soon, I might have to start sounding the panic alarm. So 63,000 in your 40s, probably not a great place to be, but hey, you still have time to make it up. So increase the percentage that you're giving and contributing, at least increase the amounts that you're contributing, so you can kind of get back on track. And, let's hope for the best, invest in the right investments to get you to where you need to be. Still in your 40s, you got some time. Americans in their 50s, $117,000. So 50s, you're at $117,000. Again, that's from age 50 to 59. The median, right in the middle, $117,000. If you're making 100 grand and you're 50, you have 1 year's salary saved for retirement. Probably not going to cut it. Probably not in a good place. Again, you're going to start looking for ways to, make those catch-up contributions, to put away as much as you possibly can, so that you may not be in the best place right now, but you can get to a much better place. So let's start not panicking, but let's start making our plan if that's where you are. Again, you should have started sooner, but hey, if this is where you are, it's never too late. Get started now. Americans in their 60s, $172,000. Well, you might be thinking if you're in 20s, wow, $172,000, that's great. I wish I had $172,000. Right, because you're in your 20s. People in their 60s have $172,000 for retirement. They're pretty much close to retirement, just about ready to retire. So can you live on 172 grand? Where are you? When do you plan on retiring? So if you're 60 to 69, where do you plan on being? Okay. Now let's talk about that. Now we've just talked about where people are. Let's talk about where you need to be. The same article will talk about Americans in their 30s need to have 1 to 2 times their annual salary. So let's say you're 30 and you're making 50 grand. You should have at least 50 grand saved for retirement. We just talked about people in their 30s have about 45. So that's at 1 time your salary, making $50,000. You would have, making $50,000, you'd have 50. The average person has 45. 2 times you should have 100. So 45 compared to 100, you can see where you're behind. Americans in their 40s need to have 3 to 4 times their annual income in savings for retirement. So 3 to 4 times, and people generally have 63,000. So, you're making $20,000 a year, that would be 3 times your money. If you're making more than that, let's say you're making 50, you should have $150,000 to $200,000 saved. So if you're in that range, obviously you're doing better than the average American or the median American in their 60s. So that's good. The good news is that you'd be ahead of those people. Bad news is that if you're not, then you're falling way behind. Americans in their 50s need 6 to 7 times their annual salary saved by that point. If you're not there, again, let's put together a strategy to get you there, or to at least catch up and get closer and closer to that goal, and hope for good things to happen in the market, and set things up so that good things can happen with your money. Americans in their 60s need 8 to 10 times their annual salary. 8 to 10 times your annual salary in order to have a comfortable retirement. So if you're making 100 grand, that means you should have about $1 million. 80,000, you should have 800 grand. People have $172,000. That's a big gap. And at that point, what do you do? Well, some people might say, well, hey, look, I can just work longer. And, I'm in my 50s. That doesn't matter. I'll work till 70. I love what I'm doing. And that's great. So hopefully you can work that long. There's a couple reasons why you may not be able to. One, let's say you lose your job. Is it going to be as easy to find another job or another high-paying job? Maybe, maybe not. Well, you got to plan for that ahead of time, okay? The other thing is health. So a lot of times people aren't healthy enough to continue working. Maybe they're out on disability, and maybe they're not prepared for that. Maybe they don't have the proper disability insurance. Maybe they're just not in a situation where they can afford to retire. So now what do? You got to get some kind of job, and you don't have the retirement savings that you need. So what do you do at that point? Well, hopefully you're not there. Hopefully you're in the earlier stages. Let me know if this was helpful to you. Give it a thumbs up. Give this video a thumbs up. Ask me questions. I'd love to answer your questions. So ask questions in the comment section and interact. That's what this is all about. Tell me, you don't have to say, hey, this is how much I have, but hey, I'm above the average, or hey, I'm right where I need to be compared to what you've said, Sean. So would love to hear those things in the comment section below. And definitely subscribe to this channel to learn more. So I hope this was helpful to you. In the future, I'm hoping that my live streams will get a decent audience here, so that I can you can ask questions live and I can answer those questions for you. Would love that opportunity to do that. And that's going to be the goal, is to be able to do that for people. So again, I hope this was helpful to you. I'm putting in the comment section the article that I referenced, so that's something that you can go back and take a look at. And remember, this channel is about this YouTube channel for saving your future, and my podcasts are based on the book Saving Your Future, which I wrote in 2013. I'll put a description and where you'll be able to get this book. And as I mentioned, the book covers everything from setting up a rainy day fund, to insurance, to saving for a car, to saving for a home, financing your home, and as we've discussed here, financing your retirement. So hope this video was helpful to you. Would love to hear from you. Get some feedback and ask me any question. Love to answer them for you, and help you on your road to saving your financial future. Thanks. We'll see you in the next episode.